Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on really an experience that begins to become set up, and that is the relationship addiction with a malignant narcissist or a psychopathic individual, psychopathic male or female. And before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel, particularly our viewers in Louisiana area. Thank you so much for your contribution and donation to the channel. It keeps the content alive. It keeps it coming to you. And thank you so much for your donation. It's an honor and privilege to be able to serve you and assist you with this very specific sort of relationship experience and moving through successfully. So thank you so much. And of course, you all can definitely donate to Peace and Harmony on the home button here on the channel here at YouTube. So thank you once again. I truly appreciate it. And before we get, as we get started here, I want you to really look at an understanding from a little bit higher level perspective of a malignant relationship with an individual who can be, the relationship can serve as an addiction. And this is not just a sex addiction. In other words, where people need to have sex, they need to have intercourse, they need to have this sort of engagement. This becomes different. It becomes really a deliberate and calculated setting up of a trap, an emotional and psychological addiction to a very profound, lethal, and dangerous cocktail of chemicals which are created and stirred up in the body, basically by the straw manipulation, emotional manipulation of a malignant narcissist or especially a psychopathic individual, someone who is an interspecies predator who preys upon the deliberate manipulation and control over others, oftentimes which involves psychological control, emotional control, verbal control, physical control, sexual control, and really overtaking the body, mind, and better decision-making processes of an individual as a result of just an aftermath or a spinning out of their relationship. And when I say spinning out, it's really because the psychopath, as much as a lot of people cannot grasp this because they are not psychopathic, I am not psychopathic, but these individuals, they live by control. So because of the deficit in their the neural network, which really, and a viewer had asked about this, but the fact that they have a heightened sensitivity to dopamine, which is the reward center in the brain, and with a lack of empathy, they do not possess the same emotional processing of people, places, events, things. They don't have that abstract sort of intangible connection to things like art, music, poetry, abstract values like love, freedom, things of that nature. They don't have the emotional connection there. They don't have the ability for empathy, but it's more profound because they have a lack of conscience, which means they not only don't feel this state of sort of connection to others, but they have a need to become reward centered, and they have a sensitivity to dopamine, so they will have a propensity to feel very empty and bored and no emotion. So they feel very hollow inside. And because of this, they don't connect to life in the way that most people do. They don't get excited like people do. They fear really kind of they have very limited emotional repertoire, and largely their emotional repertoire is based on a reward or controlling others. So oftentimes this takes the form of controlling sexually, controlling others' behavior, controlling others' focus, controlling others' decisions, controlling others' feelings, controlling how they lead their life. So you see a lot of the pattern interrupt. You see a lot of the hypersexualization or hyperarousal, where they will sort of tie different emotional contents. They'll create associations where previously there were none. They'll create oftentimes sexual associations where there were no sexual associations, and people's mind will become very disoriented. They will begin to destroy a lot of the fabric of their own sense of reality in lieu of the counter reality or illusion or delusion or sort of enigmatic ethos or culture that is created in the psychological takeover of others. So they will no longer really begin to think, feel, decide, or focus for themselves, because they are really on a plethora of fear-based as well as hormone-based pleasure chemicals, which basically gets you addicted to this very potent combination of excitement, thrill, violating of yourself, violating one's boundaries, violating one's sense of reality for the pleasure in connection with this sort of psychological takeover that this person creates in you. But you don't say, well, I'm addicted to being psychologically taken over. That's not what happened in those victims. It becomes as a resultant of very deliberate and calculated steps at the hands of a psychopath who is seeing how people get addicted. They're able to suss out and determine how people fall for their taking down. And so when I say taking down, I mean breaking down. They will wear people out physically, financially, emotionally. They'll wear them out, meaning like exhaust them to the point where people become so exhausted that they become very impressionable. And you don't realize this, but this is really how they get into your psyche, into your subconscious, is they're able to elicit a secondary priming into your mind, which keeps them at the helm. It keeps them in control. And they then become in control of the meaning and the feeling and the reward then in your life. And people become addicted to this very lethal chemical explosion that begins to take place and accumulate within the body. And it then becomes the feeling that it's only this person that can satisfy it. You have to talk to them, you have to see them, you just have to be next to them. You know, a lot of people think that this is, you know, they interpret this as being enamored. They say that this is my soulmate. This is the person who really gets me excited. When you really need to understand that this is the person who is plotting your destruction. This person is plotting your demise. This person is plotting your terror. This person is plotting your financial and personal ruin. This person is plotting your triangulation, your splitting, talking about you behind your back. It's nothing but a shell of a relationship, but they really, pull the strings of people just like that. And especially when, you are addicted, they just keep pulling the addiction leveler. They just keep giving you, intermittent, doses of it, and then they'll up the experience, they'll up the terror, they'll up the reward, where you're not there, or they're crossing the line for themselves. They're, eliciting in this higher risk behavior where, then they ask you to do, A, B, and C, or, do, violate this law, or break this rule, or violate that law here. I mean, but, when you are psychologically taken over by this type of individual, which is in essence an addiction that they set up within the body of these people, people cannot think clearly. They then will begin to do anything for this person, or to continue the relationship with this person. And even if it means, violating your own standards, violating your own sense of, right or wrong, that's when, they know that they have you, is that people then begin to really defeat themselves and then begin to get into a very lethal combination of being aroused by sort of defeating yourself or violating yourself. So it's a very important thing that if you are on this, to get away, to walk away from this lethal, dangerous person who has somehow infiltrated your life. Maybe you thought this was in the name of love, romance, excitement. This is what you needed. Whatever judgment, whatever slip of judgment you had made that perhaps had invited this person in your life, forgive yourself and say, I've made a grave mistake. I thought this person was something different than what they were. And I now have discovered that this is not so. This person is not who I thought they were. So furthermore, now I'm going to let this person go, because I know that this person is not who I thought they were. They're not who they made themselves out to be. They had duped and deceived me. And, you know, there's nothing complimentary about this person. There's nothing desirable about this person. There's nothing attractive about this person. There's nothing worthwhile about this person, and I'm now going to get away. You need to have that thought process with yourself and really begin to break free so that your body can begin to calm down and just stop this hyper arousal, get away from this sort of overstimulation of the fear, adrenal, and reward hormones, sex hormones, whatever has been stirred up in your life by this individual. Begin to just get away. I mean, just literally walk away, move away if you have to. Get out everything from, in your house that has to do with this person, because it'll continue to trigger that manipulation. It'll continue to keep you stuck under the hands of the manipulation. So begin to feel courage enough, bold enough to make that decision to clear your house of these perhaps attachments that have kept you ingratiated and traumatically bonded to this individual, because you're not giving yourself even a fighting chance if you keep that around. Have, a little bit of courage, have the boldness, have the self-preservation to do this now, and to have a sense of gratitude for, and then safety. Begin to really experience those feelings now, and then work your affirmations very hard that you're safe, you have courage, you have strength to do these things, and then face each day with that gratitude and that happiness and that joy, and then that new positive combination will begin to fuel your life, rather than the lethal combination, which is highly addictive, from a manipulative, psychopathic, or malignant, narcissistic individual. It is peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.